UEFA would deny that it ever happened. UEFA do deny that it in any way counts. And yet it happened in Switzerland. It happened in Basel. It happened on the 4th of June 1955. The first goal ever scored in European club competition. Proper Europe-wide club competition, as we currently understand it, was scored by Eddie Firmani. St Jacob Park, Basel, Basel's home ground. Eddie Firmani, a South Africa-born Italy international who was plying his trade at that time at Charlton. I think maybe the first of the 3 spells he had as a player at Charlton, a club he would eventually manage. Charlton Athletic, as well as a million other clubs all over the world. He's still in the go. Eddie Firmani, 91 years old apparently. Apparently he's still on the go. What an absolutely amazing character, and about as cosmopolitan as it could possibly get when you add in the fact that he was a Charlton player at the time. He was playing for Charlton Athletic at that point in time, but when he scored that goal, he's playing for a London Select 11. He's playing with teammates from West Ham, Arsenal, Tottenham. It's a composite team because it's the Intercity Fairs Cup. It's supposed to be made up of representative teams from cities that were staging trades fairs, which was a big thing at the time. It's run by a kind of FIFA committee. It was Sir Stanley Rouse's big push towards being the top man at FIFA. He was pretty much in charge of the Fairs Cup. UEFA still don't recognise the Fairs Cup, but yet without the Fairs Cup, there's no UEFA Cup. The Fairs Cup stopped in 1971 and the UEFA Cup started in 1971. The Fairs Cup begat the UEFA Cup, which begat the Europa League that we're all going to watch tomorrow night. The European Cup became the Champions League, massive format change, but it's no stopped. It started in September 1955, just a few months after that first Intercity Fairs Cup game. And then we had the Cup Winners' Cup in 1960 right up until 1999. I went to see Lazio beat Mallorca, and the last ever I've probably bored you to death with that. Game played at Villa Park, appropriate enough for Scottish teams in Europe as I'm recording this little podcast. And then we had 22 years without a third European competition, and then the Conference League started, and we had the first final of that in 2022, a new tertiary competition, European club competition. And the first goal, the only goal, the first final in the Conference League was scored by Roma's Niccolò Zaniolo, probably the guy with the most O's in his name ever to score a winner in a European final, ever to score a goal in a European final. And then he ended up at Galatasaray, probably the team with the most A's in their name, 5 A's in the word Galatasaray. When they won the 2000, the club to have won a European trophy. They won the 2000 UEFA Cup as it was then. Beating Arsenal in penalties in Copenhagen, and he's just been loaned by Galatasaray to Atalanta, who won last season's Europa League, the UEFA Cup trophy, the same one Galatasaray won in 2000, and Niccolò Zaniolo is now playing for Atalanta, who've got 4 A's in the name. I maybe take European football, European club competition too seriously, but the St Jacob Park in Basel, it's where Barcelona lost 3-2 in the 1969 European Cup Winners' Cup final to Slovan Bratislava. Slovan Bratislava beat Dunfermline in the semis, and one of the goals that Barcelona scored that night was scored by Charlie Rexach, and Charlie Rexach scored in the 1979 European Cup Winners' Cup final at St Jacob Park, Basel. 10 years later, scores for the same club when they beat Fortuna Düsseldorf 4-3 to win the Cup Winners' Cup for the first time. And 10 years after that, Charlie Rexach is on the bench or the technical area. He's the assistant to Johan Cruyff as manager of Barcelona as they again win the European Cup Winners' Cup final in Switzerland at the Wankdorf Stadium in Bern, which was, it's just quite annoying. If it'd been back at St Jacob's Park, that'd be a fantastic coincidence, but that's what European football's all about. It's got these little things about it. There's 105 in that time since 4th of June 1955, when the London 11 pumped Basel. I still don't know if it's Basel, the club, or Basel, a composite team, some sort of select team. With Barcelona won the first 2 Fairs Cups, and the first time they won it wearing the Barcelona City coat of arms, a kind of made-up kit. And the second time they won it as Barcelona, they were in the FC at that point because Franco was still in charge, and he made it keep their name the CF, the Club de Football, the kind of the Spanish thing, because he was a total Nazi, just an out-and-out Nazi. I know, an open fascist. This isn't just casting aspersions from a woke point of view. He was a good old, honest, proto-fascist. But since then, Barcelona have just subsumed Barcelona, the club, I've said that it's theirs. I don't think there's any Espanyol players in the Barcelona team that beat the London 11 in the first final of the Fairs Cup. But that's just what happens. What I'm trying to say is there's 105, including the London 11, who we'll call a club. What are they? A composite club, whatever. The London 11, they are one of 105 different clubs that have reached the final of European competitions as we currently understand them. I've seen 76 in the flesh. I've seen 76, and I've also seen 8 of the 11 London clubs that make up the London 11. Eddie Firmani, South African-born, Italian international. He would go on to manage, and he would manage clubs in Iraq, I think, in Kuwait, all over the NASL. He was a big enthusiast for the North American Soccer League. He got the game going in the States as well. Absolute legend of a guy. He is about as cosmopolitan, I think, a player as you can possibly ask for. And as I say, it's not just the fact that he's scoring that goal, he's scoring it for a club that's made up of different clubs. It's about the best start ever for making European competition what it should be. Cosmopolitan, different, exciting. You've got to have the domestic football. I hate the fact that the Champions League final has been moved to a Saturday. I want it midweek. It's all about midweek for me when it comes to European club competition. It should always be the domestic is there to make European club competition seem more exotic. It doesn't get more exotic than good old Eddie Firmani, who, as I say, 91 years old, still on the go. But I have seen 76 of those teams, and I've seen 8 of the 11 teams. So I go about telling people that I've seen 76 and 8/11ths of the 105 clubs that have reached European club finals, and there's 5 more in this season's Europa League group stage that I haven't seen before. There's plenty. There's more than 5. Well, more than 5. I mean, we're one of them in that 36-team Europa League group that have reached a European club final, but I've seen there's only 5 that I haven't seen that I need to get off my list. And this is my main list, the main list that I have in life. You'd probably want me to talk about Rangers and stuff. Well, I am talking about Rangers, because if Rangers go through in the top 8, I want us to get. We're through. We are through. We're going to go through to this last 16 that isn't a last 16, this interim 16, just to add to the confusion. I mean, this whole 36-team group, that's really interesting. It's quite exciting. Every time we play somebody in the Europa League, they seem to be within a few points of us, right next to us sometimes in the table. It's a very difficult table to negotiate, but it's keeping things really interesting, really exciting. But when you think about it, all this stuff that's been going on since the summertime, basically, up until the end of January, it's just to get rid of 8 teams. It's just to get rid of 8 teams out of 36. The top 8 are just going to go and park themselves, while the 9 to 20, the middle 16, just hammer out another a kind of second last 16 to leave 8 teams to play the top 8 teams in the last 16. We're only getting rid of 8 teams. I don't really want to kind of worry about that too much, despite how ridiculous it is, because it leaves me with chances that Rangers, I want us to play this extra round. I know we should try and get into the top 8 tomorrow night. We should go for it. It would be a massive achievement. The chances are we won't, and I want us to win the game, obviously, but I like the idea of having another chance to, another round, an extra round to get some of these European finalists off the list, because all 8 teams that we've played so far, I've either seen them before or they've never reached a European final. So it's been a bit of a dud for me in that sense, but really it's been great for Rangers to be in this situation. It's almost a dead rubber in terms of European progression. Purple bin, I don't care how organised you are when it comes to your blue bin, your grey bin, your brown bin, even your green bin. That's just muscle memory. That's just because you get a day of the week that your bins go out, and it's 1 or 2 of those 4 bins, and they've got to go. It's the same day. It's for us, for this house, it's a Saturday. Where I stay, it's a Saturday night because the bins get picked up every Sunday. So when I sit down with my rotisserie chicken, a bottle of Varstein or whatever the hell it is, I'm trying to drink, and I've got my packet of McCoy's steak, flame grilled. Just a wee bit goes, oh wait a minute, if I'm eating and drinking this stuff, I'm watching Lincoln Loy on television. That means bins. That means bins go. So you go and you get the bin out, and that's it. You totally remember it. What about the pink bin though? What about the pink bin? The purple bin, as some folk call it. You know, kind of homophobic people. It's pink. That bin is pink. That's the schedule there, and you see all the, just it's the same every month. You can see all they have. That's all your normal bin stuff. That's all your 4 bins: the grey, the blue, the green, the brown. That's just all nice rows, consistent. That's the same time to go. But every 3 months, just dotted about. It almost looks like somebody spilt a wee bit of ink, sprayed a bit of ink across the bit. It's all 3 months. Every 3 months it goes out, and it's a weekday. You just forget all the time. And if you drink as much as me, if you make as much of your own jam and eat as many jars of pickled onions as I do, your bottle bin, the glass bin, will be pretty bloody full. And if it's after January, that's the worst. The one at the end of January, that's the one you've got to get. I made it this week. I made it. It's been collected. Never mind red letter day. Pink, but normally I forget all about it. Sometimes they'll come early in the morning during the week and I'll be like, I can hear the glass crashing, and I'll run out, and I've done it so many times, I've just quickly run downstairs, pit slippers on, nothing else, but just ran out and grabbed the proper, hold it, guys, please take, no, it's gone, it's away, it's too late, and it starts to overflow and stuff like that, the neighbours are looking, what an alcoholic he is, but this time, I just noticed it. For some reason I noticed. I thought I'm going to remember that. And what I did was I got a wee bottle of. It was actual pickled onions. It was the only non-alcoholic thing in the whole bin. And I washed it out and I sat it in the stairs on Monday night. So I remembered to take as I went up to my bed. Oh, better take the glass bin out, the pink bin, the purple bin. Out it went. Collected. No bother. Next day, top of the world. Absolutely sorted. Never mind red letter day, it's purple bin day, and that's how I kind of feel about Rangers, and we're super organised. It's someone, there's a game to spare and we're through, and we're worrying about higher things, we're worrying about, or lower things in terms of winning away from home domestically, but we're worrying about who are we going to get. Could we get into that top 8? Well, the main thing is to make sure that we stay in the top 8 of the middle 16, so that we get seeded in the fake last 16, the second last 16 round that's come, the knockout stages playoff round, I think they call it, as opposed to the qualification playoff round, which is, we skipped that. For this, because we couldn't get into the qualification playoff round for the Champions League. We were in the third. It's quite complicated, but we're through. In some respect or other, it's quite cocky, and I was feeling quite good about that. But it's a bit like, I don't know if you've ever done that thing where you're walking along the street. I'm talking from personal experience here, and you'll see, maybe somebody's got a Rottweiler. It doesn't even look at you. Somebody's got a Staffordshire Bull Terrier or something like that. It gives you a wee sniff, doesn't bother its backside where you just walks on, or XL Bully Dog or something. That just looks at you. It doesn't really care. I was a bit worried there, but it's no problem. And then somebody will walk along the street, and they'll have they look like Pekingese or something like that. They look like wee dolls. They're so cute. They just look totally effeminate for some reason, like wee princesses, and they're just bobbling along, and the wee heads are bobbing, and they're all, totally clipped and all that. Look absolutely lovely, and you just spend, what are you all about? And they're going to rip your face, and it suddenly turned out it was Cerberus, the 3-headed dog for ancient mythology. Greek mythology, going to rip your throat off, and just get out, I'm gonna kill him, he's getting in there. They're a bit angry today, aren't they? And just like, you better get out of here, and then you go into Morrison's, and you go into and you're doing your shopping, and then there's an older lady, she's trying to get the tuna, and you're needing the tuna as well, but she's gone for the tuna chunks, the John West stuff. You're just going for the own brand. She's going for stuff in brine. You want the stuff in sunflower oil. And she's maybe in her mid to late 70s, maybe even into her 80s. Looks sprightly, really well dressed. Looks really lovely. Kind of polite member of society. And I'll just nip in there and I'll just grab these ones while you're taking your time to miss it. And she just looks at you like, fucking hell, you think you're doing? Oh no, I'm just going to get. It's quite chilly out there today, isn't it? But it's no something. Listen, son, you better do one, or else I'll open you up like a tin of tuna. All right, okay, just fucking get. Don't want to get in the way of these ladies when they're doing their shopping, and you're just turning out, and you turn around, and she's like, oh, what is it? And she just gets a 4-pack of the John West tuna, and she just like lengthwise She butts them and just puts a nut in them, crushes them on it, and just opens up the tin, starts cutting herself. I'll fucking take you. I will take you if you ever get in my way again. And it just, things suddenly can take a really dark turn when you just think that everything's going really well and you're super organised. And I feel as if this game has draw written all over it, and then you find out that they're missing the two of the central defenders. And you watch the highlights of their games so far in this group stage, and it's just a ball from the wing, and every goal they concede is a ball from wide into the middle of their box. Sometimes their keeper's putting it in, sometimes one of their centre halves just isn't getting there. It's just embarrassing stuff. Then you remember the goal we conceded at Old Trafford, the first one, even though Jack Butland's forgiven himself for that, but you forget stuff. And some of the goals the goal we conceded at Tannadice on Sunday, and you think maybe this isn't actually going to go the way with it. And then you find out that Nick Walsh has got two of their centre halves suspended. You think, well, they're going to get even worse in the middle of the park, Union Saint-Gilloise, so we're totally going to win this game. It's going to be an absolute laugh riot for us on Thursday night. And then you remember that John Souttar's back in training, Balogun, no sign of him. We don't know if John Souttar's going to come back or if he's going to be totally ring rusty. We've got young Clement he's not going to be playing because he's cup tied. He's not even in the European squad. We're basically down to the bare bones in central defence ourselves, and our keeper hasn't been too clever. So you just, our various keepers haven't been too clever. So you just keep thinking maybe it's not going to be as easy as you think it is. But I just want us to go through. We are through. I just want to make sure we get more European clubs for us to play. You could call this a snagging list if you like, the snagging list. But I like to do. This is your fat egg. Rangers are playing Royal Union Saint-Gilloise, the Les Unionists at the Unionists tomorrow night. The first time we've played a Belgian club since the last time we played a Belgian club, which was also Union Saint-Gilloise, and the last time we played an English Premier League team in Europe. It was the first time we'd played an English Premier League team in Europe since our last game in Europe, which had also been against an English Premier League team in Europe. And we played Lyon in this group stage. It was the first time we'd played a French club since we'd played Lyon in the old group stage of the Europa League preview pod, coming to you in association with Jersnet. You can still check out Jersnet from Sunday night, the Sunday night Jersnet reaction to the win at Tannadice, and having a quick look ahead to this game tomorrow night. That was myself, unfortunately, but it's saved by Scott, a fantastic host, and Stuart Weir. As you'll know, Stuart's a total legend of sports broadcasting, so they keep it decent. Whereas I'm just, as I'm about to explain, absolutely all over the place. I'm sponsored by Jersnet, and I'm also sponsored by 24 Hours in Police Custody. You ever watch 24 Hours in Police Custody? Channel 4. It can be a horrible programme, terrible programme. Just a typical kind of Channel 4 stuff. I mean, on Channel 4 News, brilliant. A lot of great stuff in Channel 4. But sometimes it's quite kind of like poverty porn and quite salacious, and it's selling itself as doing a bit of social good, but really it's just so you can sit and go, and it's a bit like, I mean, I'm not into antiques. I'm not into antiques, but Antiques Roadshow, we just watch Antiques Roadshow really to see the bit where they tell them how much it's worth, and we laugh out loud, don't we, when it's worth nothing. A lot of the folk, you can see they're gutted. They're just, I wasn't bothered. I just wanted to bring it on and show you. No, you didn't, pal. No, you didn't. You wanted thousands for that. Turns out it's just junk. And you're like, I get nothing. It's the opposite. I think it's just the same thing, really. You watch all the way through 24 Hours in Police Custody. You just really want to get to the end bit where they tell you how long they got, how much time they got in the joint. What was the sentence? And this time you're appalled if they get nothing. You get half with that. You only get 6 months. You only get community service for that. That's an absolute disgrace. And you're laughing at 10 years. I'll teach you to double park in Pollock Shaws or something. It's just, you're going to jail for a long time, pal. So you should. But Rangers in the Europa League, Rangers in Europe, sometimes I even forget. I kind of do the same thing sometimes with Rangers. I'm always like, right, who can we get next? Who can we tick off the list? When I'm thinking about it in the abstract, but when you're there, it's just great. I enjoy the process. I enjoy, the old fella with the specs or whatever telling you all about that antique, telling you about how that bedpan, who made it, and who peed in it and stuff like that, and why the certain patina probably came from the doings of a prince in the Regency period. I don't know, but it's I enjoy 24 hours in police custody, when you find out the person's drug problems and stuff like that, and why they beheaded that person that was coming to stay with them for the night, you think, that's actually quite interesting. That kind of bit, you actually get into the programme itself. With Rangers in Europe, it's not just about finding out what's going on in the end. We don't have to worry about that tomorrow night. We don't have to worry about the end. We're concerned. We would love to finish in the top 8. It'd be a bit of a miracle. We would love to do that, but we really want to make sure we finish. I think it's going to be pretty bad if we don't finish in the top 8 of the middle 16. But ultimately, we're through. We are through. And that's the main thing, so we can enjoy the game itself. I'm very bad, as I say, for ticking off, listening. But I think about it, it's a strange thing. When we got to the Europa League final in 2022, which was sensational, there was virtually no hits for me at all. That whole season, 2021, 2022, there was no Anorak hits for me, and it put me. It was the greatest European campaign. 92, 93, when we nearly got to the final of the Champions League, and then there was obviously 2007, 2008, where we did get to the UEFA Cup final. Absolutely amazing. But I think 2021, 2022, we started off with Malmo in the Champions League qualifiers, and I'd seen Malmo before. It was quite a heady night at Ibrox, that one where they put us out. The Alashkert, Armenia, they've never reached a European final, and they didn't mean, but it was quite interesting to see them, I suppose, and we beat them, and it was, what's his name, gets sent off, and it's Lundstrom gets sent off, and Alfredo scoring the goal, and it was quite intense. But then had Brøndby from Denmark. It was nice to see them. I hadn't seen them before. It was good to see them, but they'd never reached a European final. Lyon, of course, who I'd seen the previous time they were at Ibrox, so that then they've never reached European final anyway. And there was Sparta Prague, who I'd seen them in Prague when I was in Prague on holiday. I went to see them playing Sigma Olomouc, the Letna. So I'd seen them before. And Rangers had played them before. They've never reached a European final, but that, it's the old school, the kind of Metropa Cup and all that kind of stuff. They did all that, but that's not a proper Europe-wide European competition. And then we get through to the next. We get through that group, of course. And we get Borussia Dortmund, who I'd seen twice before at Ibrox. I would have seen them 3 times before at Ibrox if I was like 2 years older, because I was just hardly started going yet when we played them in the 80s in Europe. And Rangers had played them 4 times previously in European competition. So that's one of the greatest experiences of my entire life. I'm like, this is absolutely useless to me in terms of it's just rubbing it in my face. We've played Borussia Dortmund more times than anybody else in Europe. We played Bayern Munich the same amount of times, but one of them was a final. So in terms of actual matches, it was when you're getting 2 legs, obviously, every time we played Borussia Dortmund. It's the team I've met most often in European competition, and it culminated with this amazing performance in Dortmund, probably the best performance I've seen from Rangers pound for pound in European competition in my lifetime, and a fantastic night at Ibrox. We get Red Star Belgrade. Oh, well, I've seen them twice before, haven't I? Was the great team, 91, won the European Cup, the great Red Star Belgrade team. Darko Panchev scoring at Ibrox, the one after they'd done his 3-0 in the first leg, and I saw them when we put them out in the way to 2007-2008 UEFA Cup final. We're going to the Champions League. Nacho scoring the last minute goal in Ibrox first leg before we drew 0-0 in Belgrade. So it was like, this is going to be them. We cuff them 3-0. They've got the ball in the net about 15 times, but none of them count, and penalties, and it was a sensational game. And then next thing we've got Braga. Oh well, but I've seen them. I mean, they got to the Europa League final. The first time the Europa League final was played in Dublin in 2011, and I saw that was a European final. But I saw them the night Hadji, started the comeback against them for 2-0. It's not going to get more. It is more sensational than that. It's a European quarter final. It's gone to extra time at Ibrox. We're playing absolutely magic football. It was tremendous. What an experience! Because you're enjoying it for itself. Know the list ticking. RB Leipzig, never been in a European final. The horrible. In many ways, you can understand why people in Germany think they're a horrible club. The way they've just been, but the people in East Germany need that kind of stuff. They need their football. Even as corporate as it might be, but that's the greatest night of my life. The greatest night of my life as a maybe it's the greatest night of my life. But let's just say the greatest night of my life as a football fan was the night that we beat RB Leipzig. Never been a European finalist. No Anorak tick for me, but just joy unconfined. A phenomenal night. And Rangers are back, and they're back in the European final. And so the only European finalist that Rangers played in that whole run, 2021-2022, was Eintracht Frankfurt in the final. No, 1960, Hamden, 127,621 people losing to Real Madrid 7-3, really famous European Cup final, and they won it. They won the UEFA Cup in 1980, beating Borussia Mönchengladbach, the holders, another German side. And that's it. There was four German teams go to the quarterfinals in that season. So the semi-finals, and another one get put out in the quarters by the maximum, the best any country's ever done in European competition. That was 79-80. Eintracht Frankfurt had won the UEFA Cup, so I've still never seen Eintracht Frankfurt though. I didn't get to the final. I've told you that tragic story. I'll tell you a million times more if you like. I probably would have died if I had got there though, given everything that happened and the absolute state of me. But I just moved house basically, and I hadn't renewed the passport, and you know everything that was happening at that point in time. So I didn't get there. And it's almost like that's just like the only European finalist that you don't have off your list is the one that you actually played in the final, and you didn't. That's the only game you didn't go to. I'm still convinced somehow me not going is what cost us that game. 2007, 2008, it was the other way about. It was like Leon and VfB Stuttgart, seen them before, but once Zeta, never European finalist, Red Star Belgrade, Barcelona. I had never seen Barcelona in the flesh before when we got them in the group stage. And then it was just, I'd seen Panathinaikos before, 1971 European Cup runners-up. But then it was Sporting Club de Portugal, 64 Cup Runners' Cup winners, as well as the 2005 UEFA Cup final runners-up. At Sporting Club de Portugal, who would get Werder Bremen, 1992 European Cup Runners' Cup, and would go on to lose the 2009 UEFA Cup final, Fiorentina in the semi-final. Who else? Am I missing somebody out? It was Fiorentina in the semi-final, and then Zenit St. Petersburg, and it was just basically ticks all the way. And then Zenit St. Petersburg becoming, I was there watching them in the actual process of becoming a European finalist. The night they added themselves to the list, I was simultaneously ticking them off. It was just European finalists all the way after the Champions League groups. I don't really know what point I'm trying to make. 92, 93. I didn't go to the Bruges game. Still never seen Bruges. 1976 UEFA Cup runners-up, 1978 European Cup runners-up, losing both games, both finals to Liverpool. My name's Alec Anderson. Frankly, Mr. Shankly, this position I've held, it pays my way and it corrodes my soul. I want to leave, you will not miss me. I want to go down in musical history. That's the Smiths here talking about Mr. Shankly. Bill Shankly, who he's really famous for going into the dressing room and after Lisbon 67 and telling Jock Stein, that's you, John, you're immortal now. Having, after Celtic had beat Inter in that European Cup final, with Bill Shankly himself having lost to Inter in the semi-finals of the European Cup 2 seasons previously, 64-65, when the final was getting played at the San Siro. And the season after that, 65-66, he beat Celtic in the semi-finals of the Cup Winners' Cup when the final was played at Hampden. And then Liverpool lost that to Borussia Dortmund, and then Rangers put Borussia Dortmund out the following season. But the thing with Bill Shankly, I instinctively always include him with Scotsmen to win the European Cup, Ferguson, Stein, Matt Busby, but he didn't. He didn't, and he only won one European trophy, and it was the first European trophy Liverpool won in their history, and that was the 1973 UEFA Cup. They beat Borussia Mönchengladbach over the 2 legs, winning 3-0. Anyway, that's enough of a story. And it's quite pertinent, not just because he's another Ayrshire-born football head case like myself, Bill Shankly, but because he's also famous for that interview where he's sitting with the league trophy. He's sitting with the old championship trophy as it was, an old First Division trophy, and he's, I'm glad we're in Europe. It's a great thing for the team, it's a great thing for the country. But this is our bread and butter. This is our bread and butter. And I think it's a lot of Rangers fans' attitude, especially this season, over the last couple of seasons, a lot of Rangers fans have actually talked down our achievement in getting to the final in Seville because nobody is, I think because nobody else in Scotland wants to give us credit for it, and we almost want to sicken them more by winning, or doubters or detractors. You know, Celtic fans and Aberdeen fans, they're always going to hate us. Doesn't it matter what we achieve? The more we achieve, the more they'll hate us. You're never going to get credit from them. You are that kind of fan of those kind of clubs. We've got those kind of fans ourselves. But we shouldn't let that worry us. We shouldn't let that distract us from what a massive achievement it is for Rangers to have reached a European final more recently than anybody else in Scotland, and then have gone to the bottom tier of Scottish football and come back up and reached another European final without any other Scottish club having managed that. Europe is absolutely colossal. I absolutely love it. And it is our duty, first and foremost. You don't get into Europe if you don't achieve domestically, but what we do in Europe echoes in eternity, as I was saying sometime last week, and that's what it's all about for me. As much as the list ticking, it's just about the sheer enjoyment. Snagging list from my time. It's Jersey or this pod, because basically there's nothing like there being a massively controversial incident, and my opinion on it is wrong. And not only is it wrong, it's wrong on two different podcasts. It was just good. It was just really worked out really well that I was on Jersey on Sunday night, as well as doing my own post-match reaction pod on Sunday just past for the game at Tannadice. And I was able to say, well, Nick Walsh must be right. It must be because he slapped him as violent conduct. I didn't, and I did say, in my own defence, I did say on Jersey anyway, I emphasised the point that I don't know the rules, and I think that's what I think like Dunning and Kruger are most in effect, in full effect, when it comes to us football fans criticising referees. We are super definite when a referee has got it wrong. It's particularly when since VAR's getting involved, nobody really knows what they're thinking about VAR. They just know that they should be hysterical. They should be fundamentalist. But we don't know the rules. Most of us don't. Most of the pundits watching the game don't know the rules either. They just know to shitstir to get copy. But I did say, I heavily caveated my opinion the other night, saying I don't know the rules. I'm just assuming that he's probably, and Diomande himself probably thought his actions, the way he looked so guilty after the incident at the end at Tannadice, he wasn't expecting to stay on the park either, that look in his face. I thought, well, he knows that he's had a swipe at him, so the rules are probably still doing that violent conduct thing, or maybe the protocols, because Walsh has watched it back from the angle he saw it, and from the angle he saw it, it's not a big enough mistake. It does look like he's having a swipe at Kevin Holt as our Diomande, and that's it. He's just going to stick by his decision. But having subsequently, in all the coverage that happened in Monday and Tuesday of Diomande's red card at Tannadice, when there's other qualified referees, and Mike McCurry was on Rangers Review with Derek Clark, is a really good value. What's his agenda the way? Hey, what's Mike McCurry's agenda? He's definitely got it in for the SFA. He just wants to slag their referees, and we had Ref Watch as well on Sky Sports, just saying it's a crazy decision. It's just no way it's a red card because he hasn't connected. I knew it was total anal retentive, super pedantic stuff from Nick Walsh, and I also knew that Nick Walsh had been terrible in not booking most of the players that had taken a swipe at Diomande throughout that game, which is why Dio was man of the match, and his reaction to that, he used his anger to win the game almost single-handedly in many ways. I know it had other great performances on Sunday, but he really turned the tide. But I thought it was probably he could cover himself, Nick Walsh. I didn't know there'd been an update. This is what I was talking about. I don't know the rules. I always try to admit that up front. I don't know the rules well enough, and I should. Most as football fans, we should, because we like to shout and bawl about the rules. I didn't know there's been a wee update to the Law 12 or whatever it was about violent conduct. If it doesn't actually do any injury to anybody, then it's if there's no kind of, if he's not properly connected with the guy's face, which he didn't at any time, then it's not a red card. So it's been rescinded, and I want to know more. I really do want to know more. I want to know why Nick Walsh. That's the other thing that always instinctively makes me say, no, the referee, there must be a reason he's done this, because he knows everybody's watching the game on Sky, and they know they're watching him as he watches the same pictures we're all seeing, because when he gets called over to the VAR monitor, and I'm like, why would he then defend his own decision if that decision's wrong, when he knows he's going to get himself into trouble? He's going to embarrass himself professionally. There must be a reason that we don't know about. Because when you're hysterical, when pundits and Rangers supporters obviously are always hysterically against any decision that goes against our players, when you always act like that, it's kind of difficult to take you seriously when there is a reason to be hysterical. But apparently this was a reason to be hysterical. It's I got it totally wrong, or yeah, I knew I got it I got it wrong, but I knew I was just, the main thing for me was I just don't know the rules, and I now want to know why Nick Walsh decided to make that decision. I'm not into the conspiracies and all that kind of thing, but one thing I will say, you'll probably have heard this as well. Nick Walsh refereed Union Saint-Gilloise last Thursday when they beat Braga at home, 2 goals in the Heysel Stadium, the King Baudouin as it is now. They beat Braga 2-1, and he sent off 4 players, 2 from each team at the end. And I saw one of the sendings off, and it was the guy elbows the fella in the face. So he sent off 2 central defenders of USG of Union Saint-Gilloise, and their next game is against Rangers at Ibrox. So he leaves it to the last minute of injury time on Sunday, when the game is won, to send off Diomande in a decision he knows will be turned round and won't affect the result on the day. That's him covering. That's what you guys in the Masons say, isn't it? It's covering your work, the craft. About covering your work, just cover it, because it's maybe going to look. Maybe just gives them a wee bit of cover when UEFA go, are you just sending off Union Saint-Gilloise players so they can't play against Rangers in the next game? And I'm thinking, Bob Valentine was the man who refereed West Germany against Austria in the shame of Gijón in the 1982 World Cup finals, where they played out a 1-0 win for West Germany to put the 2 of them through at the expense of Algeria. And that led to a complete change in how group match. That's why all the there's no Champions League games on Tuesday night. It's not staggered over 2 nights. They're all on Wednesday night, because the final games of any group, when there's so much up for grabs, are always played at the same time. Now, that's FIFA, UEFA, whatever. That's because a game that a Scottish referee was refereeing. He couldn't do anything about it. There was nothing he could really do about it. But now we've got a second situation where I think UEFA are going to have to not just make sure that the referee they pick is neutral from a country neutral to the 2 clubs that are playing, but also that referee is neutral to the whole schedule of games that those 2 clubs are going to be playing. And that would be quite nice if, once again, Scottish referees, instead of actually getting major finals and things like that, are at least at the heart of UEFA realising when the fix can be in. I didn't see any Côte d'Ivoire flags on Rangers fans' Twitter pages or Blue Sky or whatever sticking up for Dio. I'm disgusted. I don't really know what's going on there, but it was nice to be on 2 pods on Sunday night to get that wrong. Also, Findlay with a D, Curtis, who I called Fraser Curtis on the post-match reaction pod to the Fraserburgh game where he came on to make his debut for the first team against Fraserburgh in the Scottish Cup, and I had to apologise for that in the snagging list afterwards, and I was like, it's Findlay Curtis. You probably couldn't hear because I talk so ridiculously quickly anyway. I have a great skill of making podcasts really dragged out and slow, but at the same time, I speak too quickly, so you can't make it what I'm saying. I'm just absolute top podder. I was calling him Findlay without a D. Then I saw when he got his contract extended till 2027, the 18-year-olds, and that was announced today. Come on as a sub against Manchester United at Old Trafford in that epic game last Thursday. So it's been a great couple of days for the young man. I get a week or so for the young man, and I hope he goes on to be an absolute star. I don't know at that age what kind of money he's on, but I hope he's just, maybe he's having to wash the manager's car and things like that, and just make sure he's maybe do a paper round, something to back it up as well. But aye, it's good for young Finlay. Well done to him, and I hope he goes on to be a total star for the Teddy Bears. Is that all the mistakes? I made so many mistakes. The thing about the bins there, that's going to Scottish Ray, who backed me up on the Jersnet podcast the other night. Big shout out to Smudge as well, coming from this wee pod of mine and going over and giving Jersnet a wee visit and some nice comments on Sunday. Really, thanks for that, Smudge. Really appreciated. Thanks to Rangers 55 who's on Jersnet for also telling I was going on about how it's okay for Dio to get sent off and suspended, because at least we've got Connor Barron can replace him. It's centre halves we can't afford to lose just now. Connor Barron wasn't in the team at Tannadice because he's injured. He's injured, Alec. Rangers 55 was reminding me during the podcast on the live comments, so thanks for that, Rangers 55, and big shout out to JD Gers as well, who was giving us a few nice comments there, despite the fact I was making a complete arse myself, as I always do, this pod included. What have we got, folks? It's USG, and we know that the last time we played Union Saint-Gilloise at Ibrox, it was the third qualifying round for the Champions League in 2023. We had just lost the first team we played after losing to Eintracht Frankfurt on penalties in that emotional final in Seville. They actually was it last season, they put Eintracht Frankfurt out of the Conference League knockout playoff round. This round we're probably going to end up in this season. They put them out of that last season before Fenerbahce pumped them in the last 16. But so Union Saint-Gilloise did us a wee favour there. You know the story about Union Saint-Gilloise. They're an old club at matricule number 10. That's a big thing in Belgium, where, you know, even if Rangers were a brand new club in 2012, it would still make them about 10 times older than half of the clubs in the Belgian top flight. The mergers and what have you in Belgium are absolutely crazy. Union Saint-Gilloise, it's difficult to know. You want to say they're like a Queen's Park, but Queen's Park have never won the top title in Scotland. They're like a Belgian, they're probably like a Belgian Rangers in the fact that they won a lot of leagues in the first 3 decades of I think maybe the 1910s and the 1930s perhaps, in Belgian cups and all that. But just Rangers did the same, but just we kept doing it, and Union Saint-Gilloise went steadily downhill. They qualified for Europe a few times in the early to mid 60s, and then I think it was 64, 65-ish Fairs Cup, and then that was them. They just went, they get relegated, and they didn't play in the top flight for 48 years until Tony Bloom of, is it Star Lizard Star, the gambling, Tony Bloom, who owns Brighton Hove Albion, top poker player, top gambler, top gambling advisors, and a gambling consultant, and he's gone in there with this kind of, you know, Moneyball attitude towards football ownership as well. A lot of connections with Brighton, what have you. I think it got to the stage where he couldn't own Brighton and Union Saint-Gilloise because the two of them were qualifying for European competition. That's how well he's done. Tony Bloom's clubs, he's involved with Hearts as well. Gave them a bit of advice this season, I think, when they in picking Neil Critchley as their manager, I think. But he had to put in another fella who's got a kind of Italian-sounding name. I can't remember his name, and he's like 99.9% holding or ownership of Union Saint-Gilloise just now. But he's born in Brighton, so he's worked for Tony Bloom. So it's just a straightforward, you look after them for me officially, but they're still Tony Bloom's club. They're playing, is it the Stade Joseph Marion? Is a beautiful, really beautiful stadium they've got, but it's too old. It's too kind of run down. It's a kind of combination of, I don't know, Firhill and Third Lanark's ground, New Cathkin Park. The remains of that, you see, you go off to Hampden. It used to be Hampden as well, New Cathkin Park, but it's not up to scratch when it comes to European competition. So they shared that with themselves as well, in that they went out of the Champions League qualifiers, the same round as us, the third qualifying round this season, playing. It would have been better if they played that at the Heysel, so we'd both went out at the Champions League qualifiers to Eastern European clubs. It was Slavia Prague in their case, Dinamo Kiev for us, at our national stadiums, using them as a home stadium. But they've played all their Europa League group stage home games at the national stadium, at what we know as the Heysel, the King Baudouin or Koning Boudewijn, or whatever. My Dutch isn't the best, because their own stadium isn't up to scratch. But they played that one, the Slavia Prague, the Champions League qualifier. They played that in Park Astrid, the Constant van den Stok, Anderlecht Stadium, basically. But Anderlecht are playing in Europe themselves this season, so they can't be sharing that stadium with them this season in terms of Europe. And they're playing. I think some of the crowds about 5,000 to 10,000, and it just shows you what Tony Bloom is doing. He's just making money out of the players they're getting there. When we played them, tumultuous game. That was the first time they'd played in European football for 48 years. I think they were back in the top flight for 48 years under Tony Bloom's money. He won in the second division, or the second tier in Belgium, gets them back into the top flight, and they nearly win the league. They nearly win the Belgian title. They finished second into the Champions League qualifiers. So when we play them, and we played them in Leuven, they're 2-0 up on us. Lots of bookings. That's a big feature of any game involving Union Saint-Gilloise. Lots of bookings, quite tasty. He ended up 9-7 to us on bookings over the 2 legs, and he had a guy sent off in injury time at Ibrox. But they beat us 2-0 in Leuven, and that was the only time in Rangers history that they recovered, only time so far, that they recovered a 2-goal deficit from a first leg. Quite amazing to be there that night at Ibrox. Tav gets a penalty towards the end of the first half. Then Cholak made it 2-0 early in the second half. And Malik Tillman with the massive header. Malik Tillman got up there, an incredible height to head home a strangely easy-looking header, and it was a strangely comfortable night. 3-0, that was it. We put them out, and we went on to qualify for the Champions League group stages when we put out PSV in the playoff round, and we got totally horsed those Champions League group stages. As USG went into they got to the quarterfinals of the Europa League that season. So quite a good. They've been finishing second. I think last season they finished third in the Pro League in Belgium. They're 11 points off Genk, who won it, 5 points off Bruges. I think they're third again just now, and quite a few points off the top, but it doesn't matter because this is the regular season. That's a horrific thing in Belgium. They think your top 6 thing's bad. Over there, they just, once it gets to the top 6 teams go into a championship playoff and European qualification playoff, and they half the points that they accumulated at the beginning of the season. So you get a situation where a team, I think it might have been, was it Bruges a couple of seasons ago, were 11 points or 19 points off the pace? Maybe it was Anderlecht, one of the bigger clubs in Belgium anyway, of recent years. And they ended up winning the league in this final 10-game closing spell. They play each other home and away, the top 6 teams, because the previous points they've accumulated through the regular season are halved. So it just takes a deficit down to, it's still quite a great achievement for them to recover a 9-point deficit, but it's a crazy system. But they finished third last year. They finished second as well. They're up there challenging for the title. USG. Gilloise, I think, is a different. There's currently the suburb or the area of it's called Forest in Brussels, whereas it used to Gilloise is close by, but that's not actually where they're based. So you've got a Partick Thistle, being in Maryhill kind of scenario going on there as well with them. But they won last season's Belgian Cup. I think that's put them straight into the Europa League group stage. This is not they won last season's Belgian Cup, but they also they finished. They ended up getting the Champions League qualifiers, as I say, and Slavia Prague kind of scalped them really over. They beat them 1-0 in Anderlecht Stadium in the second leg, but I think they beat them 3-1 in the first leg, and they'd been 3-0 up as well. So they were never really in that tie at all. Union Saint-Gilloise, or however you pronounce it. It's a Belgian Love-in. The manager at today's presser, he certainly knows, Mr. Clement, he certainly knows how to pronounce their name. We've got the Belgian manager, we've got Raskin, Nico Raskin in there as well. Even Dessers is born in Belgium, he plays for Nigeria. So it's a big old Belgian love fest tomorrow night. The Thomas Buffo Loyal out in full effect. That layoff to Nacho Novo and Helicopter Sunday, that'll do for me. It's Tony Bloom. It's quite amazing. He's just, that's it, they've got small crowds, Union Saint-Gilloise. So Tony Bloom is getting these players and he's just selling them. He's selling on the players. And like the 2 guys that were booked, I think, is it 2 guys that scored against us in Leuven a couple of seasons ago when we played them. I think one ends up going to play in the Bundesliga and the other one's playing maybe in Ligue 1 in France. Everybody seems to get bigger moves. The one that always gets me, considering how close that tie was in 2022, the last time we played USG, was Victor Boniface. You hear him getting talked about a lot today on Sky. I think Al Nasser from Saudi Arabia wanted him. He's at Bayer Leverkusen, but they signed him on the day before. They signed him on the 8th of August, which is the day before they played us in the second leg at Ibrox. So I don't know if it was too late for him to get in the European squad. They just didn't think he was ready. Victor Boniface, if you watched what he was doing, he basically almost single-handedly got into the quarterfinals of the Europa League that season, and he's an absolute sensation. And he's been sold to Bayer Leverkusen. He was obviously doing the business there before we can play them a second time. So I'm quite relieved about that. He's a cracking player, Boniface. I also think we got off with one there. He just signed just a tad too late for them. He made a difference, I think, in that tie, but. They're obviously moving the players on and just using, I think, Tony Bloom, and they must be using the money that you just get from being in the league, particularly for European qualification. Small crowds and all that lets them take complete control of the club, and it's letting, obviously they're making money off the transfers as well. Moneyball, gambling, whatever you want to call it. They're certainly using the system, and that's restoring an old club to old glories. So everybody thinks it's romantic as well. It's a beautiful cover for what they're actually doing there, which is just making money. Their manager. Also, this is what they do with managers, but they keep moving managers on as well, USG, without really changing things. A bit of a model there for the way Rangers are going, the way Rangers should be going. But their manager, Sebastian Pocognoli, he's Belgian, 37 years old, which makes me feel absolutely ancient. What makes me feel even more ancient is he was born on the 1st of August 1987, and on the 1st of August 1987, I was sat in the top tier of the Govan stand, right in the middle of the top tier of the Govan stand, feeling like it was like a box at the opera or something like that. It was a beautiful, beautiful seat, beautiful view. Me and my two mates, because we'd walked up to the ticket office ahead of the Glasgow International Tournament, where Rangers had just won the league for the first time in 9 years under Souness. We're getting all these great players in. Everything's fantastic. We'd bought season tickets for the coming season because it was going to be a bit difficult getting into Ibrox for the coming season. And there's Ajax, Internacional Porto Alegre of Brazil, Real Sociedad and Rangers in this 4-team tournament. And you get 2 games in the one day, one after the other. This the champions. This is going to be amazing. Walked up to the ticket office. Didn't have tickets. Walked into the ticket office. Can you get 4 tickets together? The guy's like, I can give you 4 tickets together anywhere you want in the entire stadium. Take your pick, lads. And we're like, well, what would the front, the back of the... it's a great view. All right, I'll get you that. Go to his right, slap back in the middle, because it was empty. I still don't know to this day why that was such a poorly attended tournament to see. But the day that the Union Saint-Gilloise manager was born, I was sitting up the back of the Govan watching International Porto Alegre beating Ajax 2-1. Ajax managed by Johan Cruyff at the time. And then Rangers beating Real Sociedad 1-0. International Porto Alegre from one of the Big 12 from Brazil. They've won the Copa Libertadores and also the Copa Sudamericana. So they're kind of, they're the Gremio's big rivals over there. They're Big 12 in Brazil. We've got Big 2 in Scotland, Big 3s in Holland and Portugal and Turkey and Greece, but they have a Big 12 in Brazil. They only got a Big 5. Grande, Cinque Grande or Cinco Grandes, whatever, in Argentina. It's a proper footballing country, and that remains the only Brazilian team I have ever seen. Never seen the Brazil national team, Brazil women, anything. I'm just International Porto Alegre that day. But Ajax, Rangers and Real Sociedad, the other 3 clubs, they're all in this Europa League group stage, along with Union Saint-Gilloise, managed by a guy who was born that day that my mates and I were just going for a few pints and then going to that game, going to the games. Everything points to a 2-each draw, as far as I'm concerned, tomorrow. They have, Union Saint-Gilloise in the previous 7 games in this group stage, haven't conceded any more than 2 goals in a game, and they haven't scored any more than 2 goals in a game. The only thing slightly concerning is they went in a bad run under Pogognoli this season, but they stuck by him. Moneyballed him. They stuck by him. I think they'd won 11 games or something in all competitions. They won the Belgian Cup last season. They get put out. The quarterfinals are out the Belgian Cup already this season. They won the Super Cup, their wee kind of charity shield, at the start of the season, but they went on a really bad run and they went out to Bruges. Bruges pumped them 5-1 in the quarterfinals of the Belgian Cup. Oh, the previous games they played, I think they beat Ghent in the previous game. I think Ghent had something like 9 players booked, which is totally standard for any game. Not standard Liège, just totally standard for any game involving USG, booking central. So they've had bad times this season, the same as ourselves. They've got... because of that bad time, I'm having a bad time here as well. Just there's so much I'm kind of freaking out here. It's kind of mental overload. I'm loving myself. I'm loving myself, not literally on air. But I'm loving this. I'm really enjoying this. You might be better off spending time loving yourself instead of listening to this. But we kind of lose a game, win a game, whatever in this Europa League group stage, whereas they drew 2 and lost 2 of their first 4 games, USG, and then they've won their last 3. So they're kind of on the up. They're on a forward surge, if you like. They're really getting a bit of form. Whereas we drew with Spurs and then we lost to Man United. So we're kind of strictly speaking, 1 point from our last two, maybe in a bit of a downturn. Both clubs on 11 points. Our goal difference slightly better. We are 13th, they are 15th, so we're both in the top 8 of the middle 16, which means if we're both heading into that extra playoff round, the knockout playoff round, then we would both be seeded within that. It's top 8 against bottom 8 of that middle 16. What a hell of a complicated draw to explain. So everything points towards a draw, and for some reason I've got in my head maybe a 2 each draw, given that we score a few more goals than they would. Their top scorer is Franjo Ivanovic. He's got 9 goals in the league, 13 in total, because he's scored 2 in each of the last 2 Europa League games. They got him this summer, I think. He's born in Austria, but he's a Croatian international. Croatian strikers, we've got a great relationship with Croatia. It's always epic when Croatian strikers arrive at Ibrox, whether for away teams or for us. We had the man himself, Antonio Cholak, scoring 4 and against us in the same round of the Champions League qualifiers 2 seasons in the trot at Ibrox. So it's always interesting. There's Croatia, but this guy is just usual, classy. They've also got Kevin McAllister, not from the 1998 Scottish Cup semi-final, epic performance at Ibrox in that game against Hearts. Not Crunchy, who played for Falkirk 15 times and Hibs, and who did he play for? He went to somebody down south. Kevin McAllister for a short time as well. Was it Millwall? I'm getting mixed up with somebody else maybe. But Crunchy McAllister, absolutely sensational player for Falkirk. Probably one of the greatest players in Scottish football never to play for the old firm. If you take out the Aberdeen and Dundee United teams of the 80s, and half of them ended up going to Rangers or Celtic at some point. Kevin McAllister was a phenomenal player, particularly for Hibs and Falkirk. But this is a different Kevin McAllister. This guy is only like the brother of a World Cup winner. He's a brother of Alexis McAllister, who plays for Liverpool. He's a defender for USG. He gets sent off. He's one of the guys that gets sent off. I think he gets sent off for a professional foul in their first game in the group stage, which was away to Fenerbahce. Fenerbahce, who had put them out the Conference League last season, and then they went back there in their first game in the group stage of this Europa League this season. So went over to Fenerbahce in their first game, and they lost 2-1. They were 2-0 down. They scored a goal late on in that one, which was pretty much come back off the post. That one, a meeting of the kind of blue and yellows. A lot of teams in yellow in this Europa League. Bodo Glimt, Union Saint-Gilloise themselves, they're blue and yellow, but they're mostly kind of yellow in their home kit with blue sleeves. You get Elfsborg, you get Fenerbahce, they get the blue and yellow stripes, obviously. Maccabi Tel Aviv. Conference League, it's green. The prevalence of green in the Conference League this season, even that's now over the Conference League group stage, but you'd like Rapid Vienna, Shamrock Rovers, Panathinaikos, Olympia Ljubljana of Slovenia, Real Betis, Omonia Nicosia, the New Saints, St Gallen. The Hearts must have been like, Jesus Christ. It's like playing Hibs every week, or Celtic. Sell you there, but they're actually, it sounds like Celtic. That wasn't who they were playing. So that was them. Union Saint-Gilloise, they lost to Jose Mourinho's Fenerbahce 2-1 in their first game. That was them starting to lose goals from high balls. They went down to 10 men when McAllister was sent off for a professional foul. And Ivanovic, I think he hits the post with a shot that USG score their goal from at the end there, but it wasn't enough. They then moved their European home games to the King Badwan. They drew 0-0 with Bodo Glimt at the Heysel, we'll just call it. They go to our old friends Midtjylland and lose 1-0. Again, it's just it's kind of ball into the box. It's from wide. They then draw 1 each at home with Roma. Kevin McAllister, he equalises. Roma had taken the lead in the second half, but he equalised in the 77th minute again. The Roma goal, I think that was the one the guy just floated the ball in from the left hand side, and the keeper completely catches it and misses it, maybe even worse than Jack Butland at Old Trafford. They go to 20 on Skade, and they beat them 1-0. They score Fuzeni after 11 minutes. Ghanaian, he scores after 11 minutes. They're wearing their all whites with a kind of, and Fenerbahce, the Sukru Sarakoglu, whatever it's called, the stadium, Fenerbahce Stadium, which hosted the UEFA Cup final in 2009, the season after we'd been in at the last ever UEFA Cup final before it turned into the Europa League, where Shakhtar Donetsk beat Werder Bremen to win the last ever. A Russian team won it in 2008, a Ukrainian team comes back and wins it in 2009. That's a wee battle they've taken a bit far recently. But they were wearing all black without any sponsorship. USG, quite impressive. When they went to 20, though, they're wearing this kind of all white with a blue and yellow kind of hoop in the middle, slightly kind of version of Boca Juniors, you would think. But USG, then they go over to Nice and they get their first win of the group stage. Everybody wins in Nice, except Sam Lammers, except Sam Lammers 20, who USG beat them. And Sam Lammers did score again to put 22-0 up in Nice, but they came back to 2 each in that one, the French side. But no, they beat Nice at home. Sorry, USG beat Nice in the Baudouin in the Heysel, and that was Ivanovic with a couple of goals. The winner, Nice equalised at the end of the first half, and they scored the winner in the 92nd minute, and it was their first home win for like 10 European games or something. Mad celebrations for that one. And then they had Braga in the last game. They also had them at the King Baudouin or whatever, and they were a goal down after 16 minutes. It was a high ball towards the back post area, and then Ivanovic scored in the 50th and the 74 minutes. 2 players sent off for each team, and the 2 players sent off, 2 just right at the end of the game and 2 after the final whistle by Nick Walsh, Nick Staunch Mason Walsh. And it's 2 centre halves. The English fella Christian Burgess, who spent about 5 years at Portsmouth and who's doing in his 30s. He's doing 5 years at Union Saint-Gilloise, total Moneyball signing. And Japanese chap Makida, centre half, he totally elbows the fella right in the face. It's an absolute belter. He's the one sent off during the game. So that's a 2 centre halves suspended, and they aren't too hot in the middle. They might be even worse at defending set pieces than myself, he said. Touching wood, I have rabbited on far too long. What's Rangers' history, though, against Belgian clubs, Alec? No, don't go now, mate. Tell us. That's only an hour and 1 minute for a podcast. The European preview podcast, we've always got far less time to watch them because the game's usually starting within an hour of you putting thing up on your podcast. So thanks for dragging this one out, Alec. Gonna just get it over the hour mark and tell us how many Belgian teams for Rangers in Europe. 1959-60 European Cup, we played Anderlecht, gubbed them 5-2 at Ibrox, beat them 2-0 in Brussels. The kind of the preliminary rounds of that run to the horrors of the semi-final against Eintracht. 61-62 European Cup, it was Standard Liège, beat them 2-0 at Ibrox, but they beat us 4-1 in Liège the first time we played them. So that was a badging for us. Club Brugge in the 1992-93 Champions League group stage. I didn't get a ticket. I didn't go to that. I was at the Marseille game. I was at the Leeds game, but I didn't go to that or the CSK Moscow game. I was saving up to go back to full-time education because I really needed to. It was brutal though. It was a hard hit, so I've still never seen Bruges, European finalists. But yeah, of course we drew one. We drew 1-1 over there in the Jan Bredel, and we. Famously, that Nizzy Scott Nisbet goal still makes me cry every time I see it. Taking the mad bounce, Rangers down to 10 men. Our current Stefan van der Heyden, he doing his best to get Mark Hateley sent off in that one. But won that game 2-1 at Ibrox, an absolute epic in the Champions League group stages. And 2020-2021 breaks my heart to this day. Talking about the European, 2 of the teams on my list of the 29 sides, 27, or 28, and however many 3/11ths that I've still got to do in European finalists. I've still got to see live. Are Standard Liège and Royal Antwerp. Standard Liège, who reached and lost the 1982 European Cup Winners' Cup final, and Royal Antwerp, who lost the 1993 European Cup Winners' Cup final. We got the 2 of them when Ibrox was shut because of COVID. You couldn't go to the games. We drew the 2 of them. We got them in the Europa League group stage. Standard Liège beat them 2-0 over there. The famous goal from halfway line by Kamal Ruth. Then we beat them 3-2 at Ibrox. An absolute flipping epic in which we decided that was. Remember that? No. That was no. I'm thinking that was an epic game. I'm confusing it with the Royal Antwerp game where we beat them 4-3. We beat them 4-3 in the round of 32 in that same season in Antwerp at the Boswell, an iconic stadium, which hosted the 1964 European Cup Winners' Cup final replay. between Sporting and MTK Budapest. The first game had ended 3 each in front of practically nobody at the Heysel, so got a decent crowd, and that was just 1-0. Ended up 1-0, bit of a downer, but iconic stadium, and we went fourth. We won that game 4-3, absolute classic, and it was that thing I was walking along that lane the other day where we've got the flat that the young players were in. They had the party. Remember they broke lockdown rules or protocols. And so we suspended Nathan Patterson. He's suspended. That's it. He's not going to get a game for the first team anytime soon, that boy. And it's all right because Tav never gets injured. We go to Antwerp, next game, Tav gets injured. We don't have our replacement right back. And then Royal Antwerp are giving us a hard time at Ibrox in the second leg. We just bring Nathan Patterson on, just put him on, and he just walked up the park. His first action of the second half, full length of the park, scores a goal, and Rangers win it 5-2 on the night, 9-5 on aggregate. A phenomenal game. And there was nobody there. There was nobody there to watch it. I couldn't. That would have been 2 ticks I could have got. And the next time was when we played USG, 2021-2022, our next involvement with Belgians, another epic. The only time Rangers have ever recovered a 2-goal deficit in a 2-legged European tie was when we put USG out. I'd be quite happy if we did that again, if we beat them 3-2 tomorrow night. The team, one thing, USG made a big mistake on Sunday in the league. They beat Beerschot 4-0 in Antwerp, the Olympic Stadium in Antwerp. I've talked about that before, and we think maybe that was the Olympics in the 20. It was Archibald Leitch did the main stand at Ibrox. You think he was consulted perhaps in designing the original Olympic Stadium in Antwerp? It's the same pitch, or the same layout, the same footprint, different stadium there. That's where Beerschot of Antwerp, formerly known as Germinal Beerschot, where our manager, Philip Clement, an Antwerp man, born and bred, started his career at Beerschot, ended his career at Beerschot, and USG pumped Beerschot in Beerschot. The bottom of the table are Beerschot. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. On Sunday there, in their last game. So they did a good away result on Sunday as well. Ours slightly more impressive, but he's maybe have taken that too far and upset Philippe. He'll be out to get them tomorrow night. He'll get the players psyched up. The manager in the press conference today, he was talking about Diamande's red and saying, "No, it was just comment. It wasn't a great thing. It wasn't like justice done or something." It was a slightly hysterical. The point that was put to him was kind of hysterical about vindication or something. He says, "No, it's just kind of basic sense. He shouldn't have been sent off, and it's good that there's a process there to do this." Very, very nice towards the SFA. Very conciliatory, but he did throw in the bit that if it happened during the game, it's because it only happened with the last kick of the ball and we already had the game won, we can let it go. But had that happened during the game, then that would have been hell to pay, because it would certainly have helped Dundee United. But we've got Diomande back domestically, and he's just, of course, he's ended his suspension European-wise, a correct suspension European-wise, and we've got him back tomorrow night for that as well. So fantastic news. He was asked about the team. He was asked who's available, his injuries and that, and he said, "You'll seen who was in training today." I haven't seen who was in training today, but John Souttar apparently was back in training. So was Václav Cerny. Anything. Balogun, has he not been quoted? I don't know. We need to get centre halves back because we don't have Nsiala for this one. Robin Propper's been fantastic, but please let's have John Souttar or Leon Balogun back. Václav Cerny, an absolute must. He's fantastic for us this season. We're hoping it was just a temporary thing. He looked more knackered than anything else when he came off at Old Trafford, so hopefully that's all it was, and he can give us a little run tomorrow. He's doing great in this tournament as well as in the league. Václav Cerny's been fantastic for us. Also news that Issam Charai, a 42-year-old Moroccan, were supposedly signing him, though the manager wouldn't confirm it. That's fine. I mean, you're going to sign, 18-year-olds or whatever age Igamane is. You might as well go for the other end of the scale in Moroccan football. And apparently, he's assistant manager. We're going to have him as an assistant manager. 42-year-old Moroccan, but he spent most of his career assistant managing in Belgium, apparently. Was at Strasbourg latterly, so obviously big French speaker and all that, he'll be able to get on with Monsieur Clement. A lot of talk behind the scenes on the Twitter accounts in the know about how this could be as much a Coppin, Niels Coppin appointment as it is in maybe this guy could be a future manager at Rangers. We're trying to get a bit Tony Bloom about the whole scenario. I don't know. The main thing is just now that because Aldris Uldrink had to go back home for personal reasons, we need to get our manager an assistant, and he comes, Issam Charai, so he'll definitely be able to help us out with Igamane anyway. Not that we need much help from him in terms of him just now. Finlay Curtis contract extension. Jefte, a lot of rumours about Jefte. Chelsea apparently are interested in him. And he's just saying, no, Jefte should stay here just now. He is a great player. He's going to end up playing the English Premier League, basically, Jefte, but he's not ready for it just now. He should stay with Rangers just now, and apparently, as far as the manager's concerned, he's not going anywhere at this moment in time. Jack Butland also did a presser today. He was a player put forward, not at the end of the world. He thought that's how he felt about the goal he threw into the back of the net at Old Trafford. It was for me, Jack. It was for me. No, but don't look. We saw it. Stuart Kettlewell. What's happened to him at Motherwell? The Motherwell manager having to, because he's getting abused by Motherwell fans. And I'm cognizant of the Motherwell podcaster who was on Sky Sports News saying it's not all Motherwell fans. It's just a small minority, and that's all it takes. I know it's the same at Rangers as well. Some folk take it just too far. It's a horrible trait. It is just football. I know it means a hell of a lot to us. I've been explaining that for most of this pod. This pod itself is, obviously, total evidence of the fact that I take football far too seriously. It's a massive part of my life, but Christ, even from our point of view, I only see Rangers stuff, and it's people with the avatar as Tav's face, the red cross thing, he's got to go, or it's Clement's the red cross through it, and you think about these things these people have done for our club and all that, and maybe you don't like them, don't think they're up to speed, but you don't want them hunting them, hating them. It's a social media thing. It's always been the same in the football. It's a sport that lets us get various emotions that have got nothing to do with football out of our system. As I say, it's a social pressure valve, but some of it's toxic. So I'm not going to do it. It's quite interesting though that I've, to be honest about my own attitude towards Jack Butland, I've been kind of joking about the fact that it's unfortunate for Jack Butland to sound very middle class and to talk in a way that I'm slagging other Rangers fans who have got personal agendas perhaps against James Tavernier and whatever various other reasons, that not just his football or his leadership. When it comes to Jack Butland, I've got to own it. He just sounds like one of the kind of entitled, arrogant middle managers who will shit all over his colleagues and will have zero kind of conscience or whatever about who's going to get in his way. It's all about him. He's an achiever. He's a winner. Very self-congratulatory, blah, blah, blah. And for football players, we need arrogance. Football players need a bit of confidence, but they kind of get cocky. I don't mind a certain amount of arrogance, but I felt as if when he said it's not the end of the world, it wasn't just the ball last Thursday night when I get floated into our box early in the second half that he has no grasp of. I felt as if it was a failure to kind of grasp how we should really be coming across to the support. That's fine. Again, it just felt as if there was a moment at the end of that game at Old Trafford where the players are standing looking at the fans, they're applauding the away support, and obviously they're all devastated, and the camera kind of closed in on Butland, who was just kind of going, yeah, yeah. And part of me kind of hoped he was thinking to himself, I made an arse of that. Made a total arse of that. And it's great. It's true what we said today. You've got to get over these mistakes straight away when you make a big mistake in a football match. But he was talking as if he was kind of, not stunned, but it would be silly to blame him for that when he'd done so much else correct that we probably didn't know, like his distribution. And no, he did make a couple of really decent saves in that game. But I felt as if it was a basic that he got wrong, a real basic he got wrong with it. And I'm glad that he didn't fall to pieces, and I'm glad because he played well against Dundee United, and we're not blessed with a lot of great goalkeepers just now in my ranks, so we need him to stand up, and I'm glad he's got this positive mental attitude. But it kind of spoke to that interview today in many ways, kind of spoke to, just how he just happens to have, maybe that kind of background, that kind of middle class, that kind of personality that doesn't really, it kind of winds me up or whatever. That shouldn't affect my judgment of him as a goalkeeper. And if that's how he becomes a better goalkeeper and maintains a level of performance that will get us through this game tomorrow night, he'll probably save a couple of penalties tomorrow night, and he'll be a total hero. I hope so. But I was a bit uncomfortable with that. I was kind of laughing at myself, thinking this is the guy just coming across in a way that's designed to annoy me. in this interview, but it was very much, yeah, I was, yeah, I'll get over it. When he was doing that nodding thing, that kind of, yeah, I thought he was thinking, as I say, yeah, I made an arse of that. That was a bit down to me, the fact that we lost that game there. So we could all say, don't worry about it, Jack. No, it's sort of these things happen, mate. But I think he was just going, yeah, I was all right. Yeah, I played that. I actually played quite well. I'm a great goalie, me. And I thought, and he talked about, what was it, as if the club don't often get to play these kind of games against Manchester United at Old Trafford. They're thinking, well, yeah, that's why it is kind of it's not the end of the world for us at all, as supporters, but we don't get many chances to beat Man United or even get a good result against them at Old Trafford. So I felt as if I could have done with taking more responsibility. That's me. I should really wrap this up, so I won't. It was a Celtic fan by cousin Kenny TV, got in touch with me, and he was saying, I need to know more about this Smiths concert that you went to. And I went to Smiths. I was talking about how Manchester, still the best result I'd got from Manchester was going to see the Smiths in 1985 at Magnum Leisure Centre in Irvine, and it was a fantastic concert. I saw us beating Manchester City in that friendly. I think I mentioned that at Ibrox in 2009, but the Smiths, that was a lot better, and he wanted to know more about that. Well, I just left school. That was the thing. It was the 22nd of September. I looked this up recently. Found the set listing on it as well. The 22nd of September 1985. It was a Sunday. Concert, and I'd started working at ATMAs on the 2nd of September 1985. So I was just in line from my third Monday starting a full-time job. It's because I wanted all the money. I wanted to have enough money to go and watch Rangers home and away. I'd started 5th year at school, but I didn't know. And it was on the Magnum Leisure Centre in Irvine. That was from a Drossen. It was a pal of mine, guy that was Davy Austin. We used to play volleyball together for the school team, and I think he ended up joining the Merchant Navy or something. I kind of lost touch with him. I had my first can of lager in the company of Davy walking along South Beach in Ardrossan, a beautiful summer's night. And he's a great guy, and a top Rangers man as well, in sport. He got me through he sat in front of me at maths in like 3rd year, and I was really struggling with maths. I know I come across as a total genius, but I really struggled with the maths, and he would kind of he just did this, did that, and fine. So I got my O-level, really, as well. All round great guy, and he'd got his tickets for the Smiths, and there was a couple of girls there as well, and I can remember one of them, the face, and all this, but it was this kind of feeling of, yeah, I'd worked for 3 weeks, so as far as these lasses were concerned, I think they're still in 5th year. I was a man of the world, and it was just also that feeling that you could be pals with girls as well. But just actually be pals with them. Didn't have to try and get out with them or anything like that. In the Magnum Leisure Centre, everybody used to go to the skating there. There was ice skating was on at Magnum Leisure Centre, and everybody used to hear folk at school talking about it. I never went. I never was, because I'd fallen my arse. Everybody fell on their arse, but for some reason I just never went to it was a kind of permanent disco every Saturday night, and folk would go to that, and I never really get into it for some reason. Probably watching football, coming back for the football, but I played 5-a-sides there. I went to the Magnum Leisure Centre to see a volleyball international because the volleyball team at school, our gym teacher and Jim McKenna, in charge of the volleyball team, he played for Scotland at the volleyball. We went to see him beating England. He got his tickets and all that. That was great. That was great. But that was my lot for the Magnum Leisure Centre. I remember just being on the bus going to the concert, thinking this is quite. It's I don't know, half an hour on the bus for Ardrossan to the A1 bus for Ardrossan to Irvine. It was great. And the Smiths, I can't even remember who the support act was, but it was on you're basically standing on the volleyball court and the 5-a-side court that I'd played on, and then my gym teacher had been playing against England at the volleyball. You're standing there just watching the stage. I can't even remember if there was a support act, but I couldn't have been to many concerts. It was the first concert I'd been to. I'd been to wee ones, local ones, and that, local groups and things like that, but I just remember these strobe lights come on. The lights kind of went down, but strobe lights come on that were all along the front of the stage facing the audience. It's totally blinding, and it was the march, the Prokofiev, the Montagues, and the Capulets. Just this is super dramatic, and then it just dropped, and the Smiths were on stage, and Morrissey just went, "Hiya, you alright?" Bang! They went straight into Shakespeare's Sister, which remains my favourite Smiths song of all, probably because that's what I've never forgot that. And the whole place, I feel as if I didn't touch the deck for the rest of the night. Apparently, it was the live, the first time they performed Frankly Mr. Shankly or Big Mouth Strikes Again, and another one as well. the boy with the thorn in his side, the girl with the thorn, that they were the first time they'd ever performed these live. It was absolutely amazing, and it was the Morrissey as well. You just that camp is actually quite cool. You don't have to laugh at folk that are camp. The Ordinary is pretty chic, and this music's just absolutely phenomenal. Life is fucking brilliant. There's stuff beyond Rangers. There's stuff beyond school and jobs, and I feel as if it's the same. It's just the air of possibility. Most of all, it's about the air of possibility. A gig, life, friendship, like-minded people. It doesn't have to be a pose or anything like that, a commodity friendship. It's not like, who you're hanging about the cool folk or hanging about. There's a lot of that went on at school. It could just be about people who were just genuinely nice and properly life-affirming. It was freedom. It was all about the air of possibility. And this is my 125th Rangers European game tomorrow night or tonight, whenever you're watching this, if you're unfortunate enough to watch this pod, if you've actually got this far in it. And Rangers went to the Europa League at Old Trafford knowing there was nothing really up, nothing terrible at stake. We were only going to get put out of Europe if we lost that game. We kind of got a free hit at that, and now it's the possibility of who we're going to get next. I want Roma. They're in the bottom half of this middle 16. I want to get them. I think is it 20 or AZ? I always get 20 and AZ. I can't tell them apart. I know that 20. 21 they asked 21 they lost the 1975 UEFA Cup final, and I know that AZ lost the 1981 UEFA Cup final, and they lost to Ipswich, and 20 lost it to Ipswich, and Rangers played 21 I think the 77-78 European Cup Winners' Cup, and they beat us. I was too young then. I'd been at my first Rangers game, but I wasn't going anywhere near regular enough to go to a European game. And AZ, we played them in that the previous incarnation of this format, a kind of smaller version of this format. They're just some teams at home, some teams away. So we played AZ away in the UEFA Cup in the mid 2000s. So I've never seen either of them. Athletic Bilbao, Athletic Club, who are hosting the final. That'd be iconic. They're up the top end. They're in the top 8. As are Eintracht Frankfurt, who I want to see. I want to see. They're in the top 8 as well. And we're also, who else have we got up there? There's somebody else. Eintracht Frankfurt, Athletic Club, and there's some. I'll just look up the table right now, and we'll discuss the table. Who's playing who? Eintracht. That's seen everybody. Seen everybody there. There's 5 clubs I haven't seen. Athletic Club. So Athletic Club, they lost the 1977 UEFA Cup final to Juventus, and they lost the 2012 Europa League final to Atletico Madrid. AZ, I need to see them as well. Roma in 20. That's your 5 clubs, 5 European finalists that are in this that I haven't seen. So Roma, they're in the bottom half of this middle 8. The middle 16. It divides between Ajax in 16th place and PAOK in 17th place. They're both on 10 points. For us to get into the top 8, for example, we're on 11 points with a +5 goal difference, and you've then got the bottom 4 clubs in the top 8 are on 14 points. We can only maximum points. Lyon, they're on a +8 goal difference, so I think they're playing Ludogorets, so Lyon are through, Ludogorets are out, so who knows what could happen there. Tottenham, they're on the same goal difference as us. They are on 14 points. They're at home to Elfsborg, who are doing quite well, quite tasty, so you never know. With Ange's Tottenham, how that's going to go, maybe a chance to get in there. Anderlecht, I can never remember who Anderlecht are playing. FCSB, they're in the last slot in the top 8. They're at home to Manchester United, who beat Fulham in a bad game apparently on Sunday, but we'll see that Ruben Amorim's Manchester United probably started turning it round against us. Anderlecht are at home to Hoffenheim, who are just above the relegation zone in the Bundesliga, and I think are already out of this, so they're probably want to concentrate on domestic stuff. But usually Germans, they could do you a turn. You never know. There's chances we could get into that top end, but I want the extra round. I want to get other teams that I haven't seen, European finalists that I haven't seen in the flesh. I really want to get Eintracht Frankfurt. That would need to be the next round. Athletic Club, I really want to get them, but we can get Roma in this. And I really would love to see Roma, the 61 Fairs Cup winners, the 1984 European Cup finalists, the runners-up to Liverpool, they lost it in penalties in their home stadium, Roma. The 1991 UEFA Cup finalists, they lost that to Inter, home and away. Name 2022 Nicolo Zaniolo, 2022 Conference League winners, and the 2023 Europa League runners-up, losing that on penalties to Sevilla the season after we had lost it on penalties in Sevilla. It's the air of possibility, folks. It is the air of possibilities. The possibility of Union Saint-Gilloise being a future European finalist. Watch their players, watch the USG players. They're going to be future stars of the English Premier League or the Bundesliga, but most of all, just watch Rangers playing with the lights on at Ibrox. It was the most modern thing ever. European club competition, Spartak Moscow and Honved playing those 1950s friendlies at Molineux, and a few years later the Rangers went to Wolverhampton Town and we held Wolves at Molineux, beat them under the lights at Ibrox, and now the Europa League is the most kind of old school thing of all. Football for its own sake. Enjoy the game, folks. It's a lot more interesting than me talking about it.